So this is a very common question, a good question. Do I have tabs available for the arrangements that I put up online? The answer is maybe. So there are two ways that I distribute instructional material online. Tabs and sheet music, or video tutorials and lessons and stuff. So the tabs and sheet music that I have available are available on my website, charlesalexanderallred.com. I always put that in the description info. If you click on the heading that says Good Deeds Arrangements, you will see first an explanation of what the Good Deeds system is, and then you will see a long list of arrangements that I have available. Every one that I've ever written down, I put up. It's not like I keep some and give some. I haven't written out every arrangement that I've ever made. Most of them, I finish the recording and then I go back and write it down. And my system for distributing those is a system that I came up with that I call the Good Deeds system. You can read about it on the page, but basically it's very simple. You do a good deed for somebody, you contact me through the website, let me know what it was. I say, cool, thanks, that's awesome, thank you very much, and I send you the arrangement. It's been really fun doing this because I get such cool responses from people. And you know, all good deeds are good. Some are more commonplace, I guess, and some are just really interesting. Some people just come up with very specific, you know, sometimes difficult things that they did. So those are very, very cool. And I put videos out highlighting some of these from time to time. I would certainly encourage you to check them out because they're just neat to read. I kind of just select 5 of my favorite ones and make a video so I can share it with other people. So those are all the tabs that I have available. Each one is tablature and sheet music, except for one of them. It's Remember You from Adventure Time, because I just kind of got overwhelmed trying to figure out the rhythms for that piece, and I just didn't think it was that important. You know, if you know how to sing the song, you can fill in the rhythms. So that one's only tab, but it says that in the list. Every other one is sheet music and tab together. And those are the ones that I have available. I really don't think I'm gonna write those down anymore, because it's just so much work. I have plenty there that I've done, so there is a selection, but I've looked into getting a publisher, and I just don't think it's good for me in any way. You know, if I can make $5 an arrangement, I would probably go for that. It would be taking away the Good Deed system, because no publisher is going to let me do that. You know, they want the exclusive rights to sell the sheets. But if I could get $5 an arrangement, I might even consider, you know, if that was my cut. But everything I've seen so far is just not even close to that, and it's not worth it. I don't think it's worth doing away with the system. And I would be very sad if I had to. I'd be very sad if I had to stop doing the Good Deed system. I think it's so cool, and you know, I am trying to make a living, but there are a lot of things more important than money, and I really believe that, and I try and interact with people that way. So I still get a lot of people that contact me that say well, I can't afford to give you any money, and I always just say, well, you didn't even read the Good Deeds description. You didn't even read it because you know, there's a number of things you can do that have nothing to do with money, but it's just you know, goodwill towards somebody, someone you know or someone that you don't know. Tell me what it is, and then you can get an arrangement. So I may not be writing any more down. It just takes too much time. And since I have some up there already, I'll just probably let it stand as is. The other way that I distribute instructional material is to members of the A Guitar community, which is what I call my Patreon page. It's a community that I've built there where I interact with other guitarists and distribute all my instructional material. I have step-by-step video tutorials on almost every single arrangement that I've made. Some of them I just don't do until I get asked, and then someone asks, and then I put it up, I make it for them, and I'm happy to do that, because I put up more video lessons all the time, all kinds of things, important technical areas to practice, some good recommendations if you're trying out a technique like raschiatos or arpeggios or scales, theoretical things. I have a video on, I guess some things to try if you're feeling down about the guitar, if you're frustrated with your playing or with the piece or whatever it is. So all kinds of different things, and they're all videos that I'm happy to share with members of the community. So if you want to, if you're interested in any of that, then please join. And I love to hear from people in the community. I love to hear your feedback, what you're working on, answer questions. People will say, what's a quarter note triplet? I saw a quarter note triplet in my piece and I don't know what it is, so I made a video on it for him. I think it was Peter, my friend Peter, who asked about that. So I'm happy to do that for people who want to join the community, and I want it to be a very safe place for all types of guitarists is the goal, and people who really want to think about the guitar. So that's where I distribute my video instructional material. There are no tabs there. I know that I see a lot of people on YouTube say go join my Patreon page. That's where all my tabs are, and I don't do that. I just decided not to. So you won't find any tabs there. I wish it could be one system. It's kind of two. It's like Patreon for video, Good Deeds arrangements for sheet music and tab, but it's the simplest way I can think of to do it for now. I recently was considering I was considering signing with the publisher, so that would mean I would just have to shake everything up, and so I was thinking about, if I did, all the things I'd have to change and drop, and then I thought, well, if I don't, then do I still need to change some things? And I went all the way around and round, and then at the end I decided I should just keep everything exactly the same. I think that's the best for me. Good Deeds arrangements, basically free for people, and then video tutorials for people who want to join the community, which is $5 a month. It's not a ton of money. I do have a $1 level too, but that gets you access to studio updates exclusively. But for access to all the instructional material, that's the $5 level. It's called a Guitar Head. But I decided to keep it exactly the same because I think that's the best for me. It's the best, functionally. Also, I think it's the best financially, believe it or not. I thought that would be what I should do. So I'm going to keep it that way from now on until something changes. The main thing, though, is I pretty much decided I'm not going to write anything else down. Yes, I'll keep making video tutorials. So if you're someone who just really likes the music in front of you, I'm sorry. I mean, we can't have it all, What's holding me back there is copyright law. It's been impossible for me to get in touch with owners of copyright. I mean, maybe I just gave up too easy, but I mean, most places I don't even know where to start. And even when I do find someone I know I need to contact, there's such a big company that they send me an automated response that's basically like, fuck off, we're not going to give you any rights. And so it's impossible for me to even work out a deal and say, I will split revenue with you. What are your terms? I can't even do that. So there's no system for a database where you can license a copyrighted piece of music and pay a percentage fee, and it just be very straightforward. And then that company just gets their check in the mail, every month or every few weeks or whatever it is. There's nothing like that I know of. If you know of it, let me know. That would be great. But that's really what's holding me back. So I figure if I charge people a good deed for an arrangement, hopefully if worst thing happens and I get hit with a lawsuit, hopefully that will be favorable, for me. That I wasn't charging money, but I was charging good deeds. So it's not perfect. It's the best way that I can go about it to get instructional material to anyone who really wants to learn one of these arrangements. And it may not be your favorite way. I hear from people who say, I really need the tabs. And I hear from people who say, I really need a video tutorial. So it just depends on who you are. I wish I could help everybody, but this is the best of all the different worlds that I can put together, right now. So the short answer to this question, do I play electric guitar, I guess would be no. Although I do have a few electric guitars and, a 120 watt amp, although I don't really need that anymore. It's like these days you just plug into your computer, especially if you're going to record. I haven't recorded with an amp in like decades. I remember doing one track just because I just wanted to do it, but man, I've been plugging into a digital recorder for, I don't know, at least 10 years. But I grew up playing electric guitar, started when I was 14, and then played exclusively electric until I went to college. At that age, I think I'm not sure, like 20, 24, 23, 24, 25, I don't know. So that's a good 10 plus years, played electric. I wrote a ton of music, recorded a ton of music, was in, several bands, several different cities. I was moving around in that time of my life, from Abilene, where I was born, to Austin, Texas, to Irving, Texas, to Denton, to Dallas. I think I went back to Abilene in between a few of those places, and now I'm in Plano, Texas. But I pretty much quit playing electric when I started getting really into classical, and that's when I went to college. I remember maybe the first year I was in college, I would kind of go back to the electric, and I remember writing and recording an instrumental piece that was a lot of fun for me to do, to just kind of get away from the heavy music stuff that was brand new to me and felt very taxing, in some ways mentally. So going back to what I used to do and used to enjoy doing, what I really enjoy doing, if any music, is recording, like doing all the things necessary to make the recording. Also playing, but not just playing, like practicing, and also not as much playing in front of people. I do like that, and I've had some very special moments doing that. But I think my favorite is the process of making the recording. Even if you just do like classical guitar, which is one instrument, getting the mic placement just right, and then getting the only effect I add is reverb. So getting to reverb just how I want it, to where it helps, but it's just barely there. Like you might not even notice. That's always fun for me, and then listening to it. And then I don't even do any editing. I like to do things in one take, so that's not even I like to edit, but that's not even something that I do typically. But when I would play electric guitar, it's just like you record tracks upon tracks upon tracks, and you do drums and you do the bass, all those tracks. You do Later, I was doing a lot of synthesizer stuff, so put that all on. Rhythm guitars, okay. I grew up listening to Metallica, and I heard early on that, they would layer the rhythm guitars, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 times, I don't know, for some of those albums. So I would always layer the rhythm guitars. I think 4 times was what I typically would do, so 2 on each side. And I did that for years. So all those tracks and, the solos, harmonies of the solos and things like that, vocal tracks too. So it's just like so many tracks. But that was really fun for me to do. I like that process. Kind of production, engineering type stuff. And I was really into metal when I was growing up. And I was one of those kids that was like, metal rocks and every other type of music sucks. And if you play acoustic guitar, you suck. Which is so funny and ironic now, because now I play exclusively classical guitar. So my high school self would have really not liked my mid-30s self. I can tell you that. But really got into like the Bay Area thrash bands, Metallica, Megadeth, Slayer, some other bands like Guns N' Roses. My dad used to listen to them. I really liked them. Some Stone Temple Pilots, early stuff. I love them. I got really into Creed. Yeah. My first band I was ever in was a Creed cover band. And I was in middle school, had some friends. We happened to figure out, we had a singer, guitarist, bass player, and a drummer. So we formed a Creed cover band. And I've got video footage of that too somewhere. We did one show. We did an end of school year party. And I've got some good stories from that show. Typical just first band, first show, just stuff that happens. Really funny. That was a good night though. I had a lot of fun. As I kept listening to music, I got more into other stuff besides metal. More like rock stuff, some more pop, mainstream stuff. Even got over into like, Ben Folds. Some of these people like Michael Jackson. I was kind of thinking of random bands, but artists that started to get me to think about something else besides just metal. I guess I got a little bit tired of just metal. And then once I got to college and got into classical, it just blew the doors open as far as musical influences. It's just like so many things I like to listen to, and even if I don't like it, most every kind of genre I can find respect for. But I played electric for 10, 12 years exclusively, and once I got into classical guitar, that really took up the majority of my focus, if not all of it. The reason I don't play electric these days is because I don't have time. I think electric guitarists are equally as amazing as classical guitarists, as jazz guitarists, as flamenco guitarists. I mean, they're all different, but some of my favorite players like Steve Vai, Joe Sach, the rockers like Slash, I really like to listen to, and these people just are so great at singing through their instrument, and that's what classical guitarists try to do. So they're even probably better at it than most classical guitarists are, because that's just kind of all they do. So I have a lot of respect for electric guitar. Listen to it. I mean, most of the music I listen to is not classical music. I mean, these days. Lately, I've been listening to Megadeth. A lot of their music. Also, Jimmy Urine from Mindless Self-Indulgence. If you're an MSI fan, you need to comment on this video and shout out MSI. So he just released a solo record called like Your Ringer or Your Bringer, some whatever. It's awesome, man. I love it. So weird, so cool. That guy's a genius. I love MSI. I didn't know he had so much to do with MSI. I mean, his group. He's a singer. You never know if the singer is like the figurehead for the artistic idea, or if they just kind of roll in after everything else is done and put in their vocals. But after hearing his solo album, I'm like, man, this stuff is like all him. He came up with all this weird stuff. He's just a genius. So I don't really listen to classical music on a regular basis unless I just, want to study something or I want to break from whatever I'm listening to. So, a little sad I don't get to play electric guitar that much, but I don't think about it. I'm so busy doing fingerstyle stuff. I still appreciate the music that I played and recorded on electric guitar. If you'll kind of pay attention to the background music for videos on my channel, or it's like a game video or like this video. So the background music in between the answers where you just see the questions on the screen, that's music that I wrote and recorded like, I don't know, in my mid 20s. So it's still a big part of who I am. Every once in a while, like once every couple of years, I'll run across an old CD of recordings and listen to it and just kind of think, it's just kind of weird. But it's just kind of like memories for me. I remember where I was when I wrote it, and so I guess it's special in that way. So maybe one day I'll get back into electric and would never take it off the table. I don't feel like I have enough time these days to keep up with even my fingerstyle stuff. There's too many projects I want to do, so I don't see it happening anytime soon. But ideally, it sure would be great. The other thing is, I can't play 10 hours a day. It just, some people can, but I start to wear down and start to get injury prone. So I have to keep track of my practice time, and right now it all has to be devoted to classical. And if I could do twice as much and do classical and then electric, I would. But I actually knew someone in college who did that. He said he would play, I think, 8 hours a day. 4 hours of classical, 4 hours of electric. Long story short, he injured his hand and he had to take a whole year off from guitar playing, so I don't want to do anything like that. That guy, though, he came back and, he's a monster player. So, he was able to take the time off, come back and recover, but I don't want to have to go through any huge injury like that. So, unfortunately, right now for my work schedule and for my life, electric guitar just, there's just not a place for it. But I haven't sold my electric guitars just in case, it ever comes back up where I have an opportunity to get into it again. So this is a very logical question, and something that seems like it would make sense to use fingerpicks, right? Well, the answer to this question, do I ever use fingerpicks or would I? The answer is no, I wouldn't. I have tried it, but they don't really get close to substituting for fingernails. I always tell the people that I work with, once you understand how important fingernails are for the nylon string guitarist, regardless of how long or short you like to keep them or what style you play, once you understand how important they are, you will never have trouble keeping them again. It will never feel like a hassle. You will find a way because it will just make all the sense in the world to you. The thing with finger picks that, unless, not like I've tried every finger pick in the world, but when I began to study classical guitar course, I was told fingernails, and I just thought, no way. I thought, there's no way in hell I'm going to grow fingernails. One of the things I've always done my whole life is like tear off my fingernails. I'm not a biter, but I'm a tearer. I tear them and throw them in the trash. I don't throw them on people's floor. But I've always done that, both hands. And if I feel one that's a little bit long, I would just immediately tear it off. It's a somewhat compulsive thing. So I can't do that anymore. Obviously with these I can't tear them off, but I can't tear these off either because you dent these nails, or mine dent when I'm trying to tear them off. So that's just a pleasure that I just have to do without. It's so sad. I don't know how I make it most days. But I initially tried finger picks thinking I could get away with them, and it was just the most uncomfortable thing. They really come down, or the ones that I tried, they really came down much more than my nails. But the thing is, they can't be attached to your fingers like your fingernail can, which is, it's just like one thing. Then you move your finger, and then the nail finishes it, and you don't have to compensate for that. And now that I've got so into shaping my nails, and I mean, it feels the best when I play that way. And if I don't have my nails right, I'm just in a terrible mood. I just can't play the guitar. I mean, if my nails are screwed up, or if I screw them up with a file, then it's going to be a bad day on the guitar for me. That's how important they are in terms of feeling like you can do what you want to do on the instrument. The only thing I've thought about is I have this conundrum in my plucking hand where for the fingers, they like to be like this, kind of with the flatter wrist. But the thumb, the thumb is more powerful and more agile when it's like this. Okay, tall wrist, and this is like all the way tall, like that's as tall as it gets. So my thumb likes that. It's my best thumb sound. But I can't do much with my if I even try to move my fingers, it gets uncomfortable. So my wrist moves. So I can't really, I can't combine both things. When I use my fingers, which is how you play every piece, right? Nearly every piece. Now the thumb is like coming off the side instead of being pointed at the strings where I think it sounds best. So I have thought, and might experiment with this one day, like using a thumb pick, because those like stick off the side of your finger, right? I don't expect it to substitute for the same sound. And the thing about the nails is, it's not just nail, it's nail with combination of the flesh at the end of your finger. And that combination is just irreplaceable, so far as I've found. I haven't found anything that gets close to that. So the pick, if it's a piece of plastic, is probably not going to substitute for that. But the angle might be so advantageous that I might just not care. But I haven't tried that yet. But anyway, that's something that I might try. But man, I'm a fingernail guy. A couple of times since I started playing classical, I cut off all my nails, or I cut them really short, just to experiment. And like the first 30 minutes after that, when I was playing the guitar, it was really fun, because it was like, oh, it feels different. Everything sounds new and different and cool, and it's kind of fun. And then after that, it's just like, I just hated it. I just really wanted my nails back. So I've learned that that's probably not a good idea. I will experiment with nail length, longer nails or shorter nails, but nothing to wear. If I could do them too short, it doesn't take them too long to grow back. But basically for classical guitar, just in general, nearly everybody that I've seen, they don't use finger picks. I've seen more finger pick users for steel string, or like I think like people like Tommy Emmanuel. I think he uses just the thumb finger pick. I think I've seen him. Other people, maybe people like Jerry Reed, use a thumb pick. But then the guitars that I play are so sensitive that it would really bother me to have overtones in the sound that we're missing. So if I didn't have the flesh of the fingertip, and I just only had the pick, there would be a lot of overtones that would be missing that I know are there in these guitars. So I wouldn't be able to play. I wouldn't be happy playing, with finger picks. As far as someone else, I was just trying to answer the question. As far as someone else using them, I certainly don't see why not. If you feel the same way as I do, then you won't want to use them. But I'm all for experimenting, especially on a steel string, they might work great. Or maybe on classical, you might start a new thing that, I have seen people play with picks on classical, like flamenco people. It's a little bit strange to me. I haven't really seen anyone do it yet where I'm like, wow, that guy's really good. But, it's possible you could do that. So, it's just like comes down to, I guess, a preference thing. Preference for what makes you happy and preference for how you feel the most functional. So for me, take the fingernail situation away, I'm not as happy with the sounds and I feel much less functional. So you just have to decide, if you put on the fingerpicks, does it make you happier when you play? Do you feel like you can do more and do what you want to do more? Then, stick with it. If you don't feel that way, then take them off and try something else. So David G has asked me this question like months ago. So David, I appreciate your patience. Well, I hope you've been patient. It's like, when someone emails you and they say, they tell you something you don't want to hear, and at the end they say, thank you for understanding. That always drives me crazy, because I want to write them back and be like, I don't understand. You shouldn't assume that I understood because I don't. So maybe you haven't been patient. I don't know, David. But regardless, this is a great question. I'm sorry I haven't been able to work it in to a video sooner. And now I will give you an answer. So the interesting part of this question, it's such a great question. And it's something that, maybe every musician would want to strive for. Because David says to be one with your instrument. Not be the best in the world or be better than the guy next to you or, accomplish all your goals. To be one with your instrument. To me, that sounds more important than any of those things. And also that none of those things will ever happen if you're not one with your instrument. And then he says, well, is it like certain chords you practice or exercises or scales, I think the most concise answer to this question I can give, which I've never really thought about before. I don't know if I can say I've ever felt one with my instrument. But I can say that the more clear my goal is for what I'm trying to do in that moment of playing that particular piece, the closer I feel like I can get to something like that. When I think of people being one with their instrument, I think of, classical guitarists, people like John Williams, Andres Segovia, Julian Bream. Look at these people play. Listen to them, they sound like they're literally one, okay? Flamenco players, Paco de Lucia, Sabicas, Manolo Sanlúcar. Okay, these people, they just play so effortlessly. Like it looks to us like they play effortlessly. Those would be the type of people who really ask this question. But the only experience I can share is I don't know if it would be any specific exercise or piece that you learn or routine that you have. You want to learn a bunch of chords. How many? I don't know. As many as you can. You want to learn a bunch of scales. How many? As many as you can. You want to learn a bunch of pieces. But do those things get you closer to feeling like you're one with your instrument? The only way that I can feel that happening is if your goal with the piece that you're playing is as clear and specific as it can be. That as well as you can every move that you're going to make. And it's just like, if you play a piece and it has, 5,000 notes in it, okay, you're not going to be able to have the mental capacity to think about every single note being exactly the way you want. Or I don't. So, what's your best shot at that? Well, working your technique so that these reactions, these sounds, are what you get when you play a note. So you cultivate that stuff when you study your chords, when you study your arpeggios, when you study your scales, when you study your pieces that you play, right? When I've been in front of great guitarists, and I've been fortunate enough to be in front of several, when they play their instrument to me, they look like they're reaching for something. Like, they look like they're trying to do something. And they might play a phrase and it might sound like the most beautiful thing that you've ever heard, but they look and they sound like to me like they're reaching for something. Not like I'm going to do this. Like, I'm going to try and get as much of this as I can get. And then I'm going to move on to the next phrase. Maybe the next phrase is different, so I'm going to try and get as much as that. And that to me is really important. And it's something that I think a lot of people have backwards. And it's something that I definitely used to have backwards. You know, the whole concept of like the student becomes the master, whatever, you know. Like, the master is my guess. I'm not claiming I know that this is true. It seems to me, watching these people, someone that you would call a master, which is a term I don't even like, but a lot of people say, I want to master this. Okay, whatever. So, the master is more of a student than the student. The master is going to be more in tune with all these little tiny details, and how they put them all together is going to be more significant to them than the person that we call the student. It works backwards that way. I think we kind of think like, oh, the better I get, the more things will take care of themselves. But you got to remember, if you're in front of this great guitarist and they play this wonderful phrase, they thought about every single note in that phrase. You know, they might have worked it to the point where they can just think a thought and all these 10 or 20 notes, you know, come out in a particular way as one thought on their instrument. Sounds like, David, what you're talking about, one with their instrument, okay? But at some point, they have gone in and thought about every single note. How does it go? What is it part of? What's my technique? If there's an inefficient technique, they've worked it, their scales, their arpeggios, their chords, until it's not a problem for them. If it's a sound that they think could be better, they improve the sound. And that's another thing about these great guitarists. They're always improving their sound. And if you ask them, like, what do you think about a recording that you made, 5 years ago? Typically, they will say things like, I wish I could go back and do it again. And that is a sign of, like, a master. Because they've learned since then. It might have been a Grammy award-winning recording. But to them, they're like, since then, I've found better things I want to do with that piece, or I've improved my sound, or I don't know. I mean, you have to ask some of these people, but it's really, really interesting stuff. So, I don't know if I can sum it all up, when you combine, healthy work ethic, for sure, because I just like playing the guitar is very difficult for me, and it always has been. Healthy work ethic with like continual persistence. In other words, when you run up against a wall, you keep trying until you get what you want. It might be a lot longer than you thought. Combined with the very important realization that you need to change to get where you want to be. Whatever you're doing at the moment is not where you want to be. So you can't keep doing that. You have to figure out how to change your movements, how to change your thinking, how to change your priorities. So it's so difficult, but so key. So willingness to change, to improve, and a continual re-evaluation of what is most important about the piece that you are playing And how do you make that come out? That's my best answer. If you can combine, some probably unique combination of those things for you. But, let's say you play a piece and you feel like you're one with the instrument. You can do what you want to do, whatever you want to do with it. Okay. You've worked all the techniques so that they're available to you. They sound the way you want them to sound. You've kept working at that until you get things in place the way that you want them to be. Okay, persistent. In that process, you keep evolving. Changing angles, changing techniques, not doing the same things, doing new, different things to get the results that you want. And then you keep thinking, what do you want this piece to sound like? Why do you even want to play it in the first place? Why is it important to you? Why is it important, and why is it important that you play it? And this is where I would recommend bring your personal experience to the table, and be sure and think of yourself as a significant source of inspiration for yourself. Like, if you connect a piece to something that really affected you, that happened in your life, how do you think you're going to play that piece? You're going to play it better. You're going to play it more musically. You're going to play it with more meaning. And it's not going to be just like, I got to get these notes right. Man, it really drives me crazy. I just can't stress this point enough. I don't never rag on people I work with about making mistakes. I don't even mention it. If there's a technique that is and obviously needed some work, then we'll look at that. But I've never once said you need to just make fewer mistakes. Yet 90% of the people that I work with, their number one worry is making too many mistakes. And I always go back to, if you don't know what you want to do with the music, playing the right notes is not going to help you. It was not going to help you decide what you want to do with the music. That is an important decision that you have to make. You can make before you learn a note of the piece. That's why it's such a good exercise to sing a piece out loud without your guitar. To just hear it mentally. And just think, if I could do anything, what would it sound like? There's no reason why you shouldn't think that way, even if the techniques that you need are at that moment beyond your capabilities. How are you going to get them? You will never even know that you need them. So you will never know that they exist. It's that important. It's that important. Imagination. Okay? And I was looking for my students. We had an end-of-year recital last spring, and I wanted to say something about this, but I couldn't think of a good way to sum it up. But I was like, if I can think of a good sentence or two to sum this thing up about how, we just need to imagine and not worry. Yes, we want to work on the right notes, and yes, learn the piece, with as few mistakes as possible, but none of that substitutes for imagining and that skill set. And I was like, how can I sum this up? And then all of a sudden I thought, oh right, someone else already did it. Way better than I ever could. Imagination is more important than knowledge. Okay, Albert Einstein. So if it's good enough for him, it should be good enough for the rest of us. And he's talking about physics or mathematics or sciences. How much more so does that apply when we talk about art? I can't even imagine. No pun intended. But imagination is so important. So, yeah, all these physical things, you can't do it without a healthy work ethic, a consistent work ethic. Even if you can only play the guitar 2 days a week, okay, those 2 days every week you play the guitar, that kind of work ethic. Those things are certainly important, but as far as I can imagine being one with the instrument, you have to imagine what's most important, draw from your own experiences, and then you have to try and find the point where those things meet your guitar. If you're not able to do the techniques comfortably, then you can see why that might make you trip up. But wanting to get there will be very strong motivation for getting those techniques in shape. Much stronger than, well, I need to play it right, or I need to play the right notes. Nobody really cares about that. I mean, some people will, but they're not really people that you need to listen to in terms of whatever they think about your playing. There are more important things. It's up to all of us to learn the right notes, but what's gonna make you feel like you can play the instrument exactly the way you want to. Imagine the most ideal way possible that you want the piece to go, how you use the guitar to get that, where those two things meet in the middle. That's about as far as I can think in terms of really being one with your guitar. Great question. Such a long answer, but man, David, this is such a great question. And I didn't want to just throw this on the end of something, because I was like, I don't get asked questions like this every day. So cool to think about, so important. And I don't care your skill level, but if you can imagine more than the guy sitting next to you, man, I would take a lot of pride in that. And I would say that's just of the utmost importance.